What is the very latest on Burrow, Schefter?
All right, Greeny, the Bengals believe that Joe Burrow has a strained calf. You'll notice that when he went down on that particular play, he already had his right calf wrapped in a black sleeve. And that black sleeve was on there because the day before, he experienced tightness in that calf during practice. So he goes down yesterday, gets carted off the field, and any time one of the best players in football, one of the best players in all of sports, is carted off, it's cause for alarm. It's cause for even more alarm, considering that one day before, Justin Herbert signed the richest contract in NFL history, and Joe Burrow is tracking to beat that contract. And Joe Burrow's agent already has kept Nick Bosa out of the 49ers camp. He didn't even report until he has a new contract. So, considering the injury, considering his contractual situation, there's a real chance that we will not see Joe Burrow back on the practice field again until he has a new contract that makes him the highest paid player in NFL history. And we should also point out that on July 26, 2022, Joe Burrow suffered an appendectomy and missed the preseason. July 27, 2023, 1 year and 1 day later, he goes down with the strained calf. Might be a good idea for Joe Burrow next summer not to report to training camp until August 2024.
Right, and look, I mean, it's ironic in a way because he was just talking the day before about how much he was looking forward to having a healthy camp because he had never really had it, to the point that you were making. And now this happens. I never want to ask you to speculate on anything, Schefter, but you talk to people. Do you get any sense from there just how serious, like they seem to be, Jamar Chase's quote seemed to be sort of playing this down, like a strained calf, it isn't that big a deal. Do you get a sense that is the right way to look at this?
Yes, right now that is correct. That is the way to look at it. It looks like a strained calf. Strained calves usually sideline players, I would say multiple weeks. But again, I think you have to consider the injury and consider his contractual situation. My sense would be that his agent's going to say, Joe, we're not going to let you step back onto that football field until you have that new contract in your hand. There's no reason to be back out there. And during the time that he's sidelined, this is even more of an opportunity for the two sides to ramp up their discussions and figure out a way to get that deal done so that Joe Burrow can step back onto that field safely and comfortably, feeling good about his particular situation.
Mike Tannenbaum said the same thing exactly to me in our meeting this morning. We'll get to him in a minute. Quickly, Schefter, because I know you have to run. Another potentially significant injury yesterday. Jalen Ramsey carted off the field at Dolphins practice. It's a knee. What do we know?
He's going to have knee surgery, Greeny, and he is going to miss at least the start of the season. And I think they'll figure out exactly how long he'll be out once they perform the surgery, which is likely to happen today. It was a meniscus injury. He went down. He was carted off. And yesterday I had a head coach text me that he always worries about these soft tissue injuries in the first couple of weeks of camp, knee injuries, soft tissue injuries, because players are ramping back up. They're more apt to get hurt. And yesterday, Jalen Ramsey goes down with a knee injury that's going to knock him out for the start of the season at the very least. The Dolphins do expect to get him back. He should be okay, but he will miss some time, although I think he'll be back in time to play your Jets twice.
I've always said there are doctors, and then right below them when it comes to medical expertise are football players. No one knows their own bodies better than football players do. When you saw Burrow pull up the way he does on that play, what went through your mind?
First thing that came to my mind was, oh boy. Oh boy, this is a problem. And, you know, I've dealt with a calf injury. I've had a calf tear, and I know from experience that it's just really, really annoying. It's one of those injuries that no matter what you do, it's not like a hamstring where you could limit the percentage that you're going to run, how fast you're not going to hit the top end of your speed. It's everything you do. And this is especially being his back leg, where you have to drive into your throw. You have to plant your back leg. You got to stick your foot in the ground. You got to drive that thing forward to throw a hard pass. It's going to be difficult for him. And again, I personally haven't seen anyone carted off with a calf injury, but I understand they're being very cautious. It is the franchise. It's their season. So they got to make sure that they do everything that they can to make sure that he has the proper rest and the proper recovery.
Now, obviously, and Mike T, We were just talking about this with Schefter a moment ago. I mean, you brought up the contractual piece of this. There are so many factors that are sort of playing into this at the same time.
Absolutely, Greeny. And if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, it's really easy for me. Hey, Joe, first and foremost, we got to get you healthy. And by the way, we're not going to let you back on the field until this contract's done. We're going to relieve you of any pressure or anxiety. Once Justin Herbert got signed, Greeny, I've got to think they're just crossing T's and dotting I's. If you go back to the offseason, Lamar Jackson signs his big deal. Jalen Hurts signs his big deal. Justin Herbert, as Adam alluded to, just signed his big deal just days ago. So if I'm the Bengals, Joe Burrow is just too important to us, the organization, the city. We have to make it crystal clear that we're going to get this deal done. We're going to get you healthy, and then we're going to get you back on the field in that order. So there is no rush on any of these fronts.
Okay, so we'll see. And then, you know, that's obviously incredibly important to him, to them, and maybe to some degree to all fans. But what football fans are particularly concerned with is Joe Burrow going to miss significant time here? And I asked Schefter the question. I know that we're kind of dealing in nuance, Kmart, but they're playing it down like, oh, no big deal here. Look, I've seen a lot of injuries. That didn't look like no big deal to me.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It looked more serious. As soon as I saw that video, my first thought was, I just saw Cincinnati Super Bowl hopes fade to black. Just because he is. Because does anybody know who the backup quarterback for the Bengals is? It's Trevor Siemian. Nobody knows because everything about their success hinges on Joe Burrow. Now, the good news is if they're saying it's a calf strain, okay. But with any injury to any quarterback, especially Joe Burrow, the guy has played 3 preseason snaps in his entire career. That's why he was so excited about getting the work. Clearly, he doesn't need it, as we've seen in his career. But you just cannot risk anything with him. So this we will be watching as week 1 approaches, and especially with the contract situation that they have. He cannot afford to step on the field without that money.
Yeah, so Ninko, let's finish it up, just the on-the-field piece. Again, I'm asking you to guess, but football players have educated guesses. If they want to make sure that he's 100%, not 80%, but 100%, because this happens in July, not in November, do you expect that he will be on the field week 1 when their season begins?
Yeah, I think week 1 is realistic. And with a calf injury, there's a range on grades. Is it a grade 1, 2, 3, as far as how severe the tear is? And I think back to I think it was 2014 midseason, week 8. We were in practice on a Wednesday, and someone stepped on Tom's foot. I think it was an offensive lineman and stepped back and stepped on Tom's foot. And literally, he limped off the field, sat down on the bleachers, and everyone was just looking over there like, oh my goodness, is this the end of our season right now? Is this how it ends? And then even Bill walked over there just to make sure, talk to him, and everything was fine. But that initial moment, you're all just like, oh my goodness, like my season just ended. And so hopefully that's not the case, and he'll be fine in 4 weeks. But I would anticipate they do everything that they can, sit him down for the rest of the preseason. And week 1, fingers crossed, he'll be good to go.
Parenthetically, that offensive lineman has never been heard from again. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.